PCA Insects exam newest with complete 100 questions and correct detailed answers. Question 1. In California management programs, pheromone mating disruption is a primary tool used to control which pest? Red imported fire ant Persilla, codling moth, citrus thrips. Mating disruption works by flooding an orchard with synthetic versions of the female insect's sex pheromone. This confuses the males, making it nearly impossible for them to locate females and mate. In California, this is a cornerstone of IPM for the codling moth, significantly reducing the need for broad-spectrum insecticides in apple and pear crops. Question 2. How do pierce-sucking mouthparts specifically differ from other insect mouthpart types? Mandibles and maxillae are curled protectively around stylets. Maxillae are reduced or absent while mandibles form stylets. Mandibles and maxillae are modified into needle-like stylets. The labrum is extended into a long tube used for chewing. In insects with pierce-sucking mouthparts, like aphids or stink bugs, the mandibles and maxillae are highly specialized into four sharp, needle-like structures called stylets. These stylets are used to penetrate plant or animal tissue to reach and suck out internal fluids. This is distinct from chewing mouthparts which use mandibles for grinding. Question 3. Which of the following insects is most frequently killed when it feeds on plants that have been treated with systemic pesticides? Stoneflies, leafhoppers, katydids, dragonflies. Leafhoppers are sucking insects that feed directly on the vascular tissues, phloem or xylem, of plants. Because systemic pesticides are absorbed by the plant and move through its vascular system, leafhoppers ingest a lethal dose of the toxin while feeding, whereas non-feeding insects or those on the plant exterior might be less affected. Question 4. Which specialized natural enemy is the primary target/agent for the biological control of whiteflies? Aphidius colemanni, Hyposoter exigui, Encarsia formosa, lacewing larvae. Encarsia formosa is a tiny parasitic wasp. It is a highly effective biological control agent specifically for whiteflies, particularly in greenhouse environments. The female wasp lays its eggs inside the whitefly nymph, larva. The developing wasp eventually kills the host, turning the whitefly scale black. Question 5. The parasitic wasps known as Hyposoter spp. Are known natural enemies of which pest group? Aphids, armored scales, caterpillars, spider mites. Hyposoter is a genus of ichneummonid wasps that act as endoparasites. They primarily target the larval stages, caterpillars, of various Lepidoptera. By laying eggs inside the caterpillar, the larvae consume the host from the inside out, providing a natural check on pest populations. Question 6. Transgenic plants, GMOs, designed to provide internal control of arthropod pests were primarily developed using DNA from which organism? Bacillus thuringiensis, BT, Bovaria bassiana, nuclear polyhedrosis virus, Encarsia formosa. Bacillus thuringiensis, BT, is a naturally occurring soil bacterium that produces proteins toxic to specific insect orders, like caterpillars or beetles. Scientists inserted the genes responsible for these toxins into the DNA of crops like corn and cotton, allowing the plant to produce its own insecticide. Question 7. As originally devised, what is the main objective of the sterile insect technique SIT? Suppression of the population, prevention of new arrivals, total eradication, biological diversification. SIT involves the mass rearing and release of millions of sterilized insects, usually males. When these sterile males mate with wild females, no offspring are produced. The original intent of this technology, famously used against the screwworm fly, is the complete eradication of a pest from a specific geographic area. Question 8. Which of the following statements best describes an invasive species? A native species whose population rises quickly and causes harm. A non-native species that is likely to cause economic or environmental harm. A native species that becomes harmful after non-native species are controlled. Any species that requires the use of pesticides to manage. By legal and scientific definition, an invasive species must be non-native, alien, to the ecosystem under consideration. Furthermore, its introduction must cause, or be likely to cause, economic harm, environmental harm, or harm to human health. Question 9. In insect ecology, which mortality factor is categorized as being density independent? Action of natural enemies, predators, lack of available shelter, application of pesticides, competition for food sources. Density-independent factors affect an insect population regardless of its size or density. A pesticide application or a flash flood will kill the same percentage of insects whether there are 10 or 10,000 in an area. In contrast, natural enemies are density-dependent, as they usually increase in number when the pest population is high. Question 10. Which of the following insects is a classic example of a predator rather than a parasite? Tachinid fly, damsel bug, ichneumon wasp, braconid wasp. A predator, such as the damsel bug, nobody, actively hunts, kills, and consumes multiple prey individuals throughout its life. In contrast, tachinid flies and ichneumon/braconid wasps are parasitoids, meaning they develop on or inside a single host individual, eventually killing it. Question 11. Which type of stink bug is frequently identified in California agricultural settings by the reddish markings on its shoulders, pronotum? Conspurse stink bug, green stink bug, red shoulder stink bug, brown marmorated stink bug. The red shoulder stink bug, the Antipallidovirens, is distinguished by the characteristic red or pinkish line or blush across the top of its thorax, shoulders. Like other stink bugs, it uses pierce-sucking mouthparts to damage fruit and seeds, often leaving cat-facing scars on crops.